You saved penny after penny to be able to buy what you wanted most until one day the coins were already overflowing the piggy bank. You counted the money and you already had enough for a new controller. Then you spent hours in digital stores looking for the controller that has the best price and that doesn't have such a horrible color. You found the right one, you bought it, you waited 1, 2, or 3 days patiently, and the day came, they knock on the door, they deliver your new controller, and you got scammed. Because the controller you bought is fake, it's a replica, a duplicate, it's not original. This happened to a very good friend of mine who contacted me a couple of days ago to tell me that he had bought this new PlayStation 4 controller and that his current controller was getting old, it was worn out and it wasn't responding as he wanted. So he bought a new controller. The thing is, when he went to test it, when he went to play, he realized that the response was different from what he was used to with his usual controller. He wrote to me and said, "It must be because it's new, and I don't like that the controller is so new. I want a worn-out controller like mine that makes it easier for me to play." Which, even though it sounds crazy, is something that happens to many of us. We prefer worn-out controllers to new ones. Well, I tell him, dude, I think you're exaggerating a bit. Because he's not such a hardcore gamer to say I'm noticing the difference between a new one and a used one. With all due respect to my friend, whose name I won't give. I won't give the name of Leonel, I promise. Well, I tell Leonel, send me a picture of the new controller. I want to see it. And the dude, as you can see in this conversation, he sends me a picture of his new controller, which is this one you're seeing right now on the screen. Immediately after, less than a minute after he sent me this image, I tell him it's a replica. Where did you buy this controller? Why? Because you got scammed. A big greeting to Leonel. I won't say more about his identity, and this is where I invite you to pause the video, look at this image, and tell me why that silver controller is. The controller in the photo is fake. I'll explain why it's fake and how I realized it so quickly. Take the test and see if you can recognize a fake controller just by looking at a photo, right? Cold interaction, take your time. If you realized, put it in the comments. The thing is that days later, Leo sends me, I've already said his name 50 times. Leo sends me his controller. Here it is, it's this one here. He sends me his controller. I open it, I check it, and yes, indeed, this controller is not original. All right, now I'm going to explain how to avoid going through. Don't mess with me because I'm mistreating the controller. Don't start messing with me. Dude, how do they treat things like this? Today I'm going to explain how to recognize before, during, and after buying it if your controller is fake. And this is very important because it's going to help you to make a good purchase and not be scammed. Because it's full, the internet is full of this crap, of this garbage, of this monstrosity, of this fast and horrible. How can I avoid this happening to me? Well, let's start from the beginning. How can you prevent this from happening to you? I'm going to leave it at that. First of all, avoid buying these kinds of popular items on Amazon or Mercado Libre. I know it's hard because most of us buy from these platforms, but try to avoid it. And if you're going to buy on Amazon or Mercado Libre because you have no other choice, or because you don't have time to go to a store, for God's sake, check who's selling it to you. Check their posts. If the one selling it to you is Juancito de los Pepinos, and he only sold 10 controllers and his account was created 5 days ago, don't buy from him. Don't buy from him directly. Try to buy from accounts that have many sales made over a long time and that have all positive reviews and that users have not complained. It seems obvious what I'm saying, but evidently it's not so obvious because it happened to Leo. Ha! Poor Leo. Anyway, this doesn't save you, but what will save you is buying from a department store, whether it's in a shopping center, a shopping mall, or in its absence. If there's no Sony store in your country, still go to a physical store. Because now I'm going to tell you how to recognize the fake controller just by the box without opening it. So in a physical store, you can see the controller, you can hold it, you can base your decision on what I'm going to explain to you. Is this real? Or is it a replica? And you save yourself all the bad taste that comes with a fake controller. How to identify a replica just by its box? Well, you followed my advice, you went to the store to buy your controller, you saw the box, and well, what do I do now? Very simple. The first thing we're going to notice is the description of the color and type of controller. And in the picture on the back is the product that's inside. That's obvious, but that's very obvious. It's obvious, but Leo didn't realize it. That's how I identified that the product wasn't original. The box says it's camouflage blue, on the back it says camouflage blue, and inside it's silver. Clearly this product is not original, and it's one of the first things that will make you realize that the product you're buying is a replica. Then, if the controller you're going to buy has this type of plastic, where the plastic copies the shape of the DualSense, well, that controller is a replica. That's not original. That's not how Sony's boxes are. Sony's boxes have this angular plastic. That's a replica box of an original. Then, if at the top of the box the controller has 3 stickers instead of having just 1 sticker, the controller is also not original. Sony's controllers only have 1 sticker. Here, just 1. If the image on the back is not in good quality, it's also not original because Sony's boxes have very good prints. If the box has this red sign here in front that you're seeing, well, that box is fake. That sign doesn't have to be there. If when you see the product through the little plastic, you realize that on the touch it has a film of those that cover, for example, the phone when you buy it, that controller is fake. Sony doesn't apply film to that controller area. On no original controller. If the box comes with a cable, or you can see that there is a cable included, that controller is fake. Sony controllers do not come with a cable. As of the time of this video's creation, just to clarify. Another detail to know if it's fake, the controller's authenticity can be checked by examining the code under the box. More precisely in this code, if that code has these letters at the end, this box is from a fake controller. And finally, if you see that the quality of this little plastic thing that is used to hang, it's like very thin and very flimsy, that controller is fake. Did you know all this or didn't you know all this? I'm going to continue because this goes on. I'm going to give you more and more details and data on how to identify a controller. But right now, I'm going to ask you to like this video because if you watched up to here, it means that I earned your like. Please, how to identify a replica controller when using it? I messed up the light. First, the touch panel is inaccurate on replica controllers. This is the hardest to test because there are not many games that use it accurately. But if you're using the touch panel and you realize it's not working quite right, your controller is a replica. Another way to realize with the use that your controller is a replica is when the analogs go to the top. That is, no matter how little or how much you give the analog, it always moves at the same speed. This is very common in replica controllers. You're playing a shooter and moving the analog stick slightly causes the camera to jump to the top instead of moving slowly. This indicates an issue with your controller. It's a replica. We're talking about new controllers, of course. Because maybe your controller is worn out. If that happens, you understand what I'm saying. If the arrows feel watery, like very soft, your controller is a replica. If the resistance of the arrows and the resistance of the rest of the buttons is different, your controller is a replica. If you link your controller to another device, for example, a PC or your own PlayStation console, and it doesn't tell you how much battery the device has, or when you charge it to the top, it never shows that it's fully charged. Your controller is a replica. If the triggers are not gradual, that is, they go to the top even if you press them a little, your controller is a replica. If the audio of your headphones when you connect them here is heard very low with little power, but your headphones on your phone or other devices work well, your controller is a replica. And if when you connect the microphone, your friends tell you that you sound bad, like underwater, and they can't understand you well, but when you connect your headphones to the computer or other devices, they work well, your controller is a replica, because one of the places where you save the most money is on the little audio card that the controller has. And Sony may have good or bad things, but one of the good things it has is that they know how to work with audio. And PlayStation 4 controllers do not have bad audio. How to identify a replica by its appearance? Well, we are at the point where you are becoming an expert to identify. Distinguishing a fake controller from an original one can be done by looking at the box, using it, and now by its appearance. The PS button is a common giveaway in replicas. I've already earned your subscription, so please subscribe to Big Data News and turn on notifications. Now let's dive into why the PS button often reveals a fake controller. Because they usually make the print on the PS button quite blurry and poorly defined, as we can see in this image. Then what we are going to find in the replica controllers, and it is very common, are injection errors when the plastic was manufactured. In this gray controller, for example, we can find 3 errors. One is in the speaker hole, where you can see a small plastic burr inside. That is not common. The other error we can find is in the light bar that is seen on the touchpad. We realize that there is an injection error in the plastic. That is also not common. And the third error I found is a pronounced line on one of the horns, which is also not common. Another common error in replica controllers is that the word Sony on the back is off-center. This can't be, it doesn't happen in any original DualShock model. And this is perhaps the most important clue to know if your controller is fake. And that is if we look at the charging connector of the DualShock and the pins inside are gold. That controller is fake. The charging pins of an original DualShock are silver, not gold. Then another way to realize whether the joystick is original or a replica is with the sound of the L3 and R3. Listen to this. This is very specific and very delicate. But they sound different because where they save to do this is in the headphone jack, in the analogs, and in the battery, which, in fact, I forgot to say that before. The battery life is one of the clues that tells you that your controller is a replica, but well, I already forgot to say it. The analogs have to have a much softer sound. If they make a sound like very clack, 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 when you press the R3 and the L3, that controller is a replica. And finally, very specific, but this is a rule that is always met if your controller weighs less than 217 grams, for which you need a precision scale. I'm not going to ask why you would have a precision scale at your house if it weighs less than 217 grams or more than 223 grams. That controller is a replica. Incredible, you didn't know that, did you? What to do when I buy a PlayStation 4 controller and I'm not sure if it's a replica or if it's original? Suppose you bought a controller on Mercado Libre or Amazon, as it was the only option available. To determine if it's genuine or a replica, here's what you should do. Don't do what I just did, basically. You grab the controller box and you check it. You make sure that what I explained to you is not present on the box. If it passes the first test, great. What you're going to do next is remove the little plastic that it has here, the sticker, as delicately as possible. You remove it very slowly, open the controller, put everything on the table. You check that it doesn't bring a cable. You check that everything I explained before doesn't happen. You take out the controller without getting it dirty, without breaking anything, without mistreating the product. You connect it and start playing some shooter, or some car game, or some game where the camera has to move in a way in which you already know that the controller has to move. If you test it and it works well and responds well, perfect. The controller is original. Obviously, if you didn't find any of the details that I already gave you before, checking the controller and so on. If you find that the analogs don't respond well, that the RTW and LTO don't respond well, that the buttons feel different from the D-pad, that the X, triangle, square, and circle buttons are fine, you put the controller back perfectly. You close it again. You communicate with wherever you bought it from, Mercado Libre or Amazon, and you say you want to return it. When they ask why you want to return it, make something up. That the color wasn't what you expected, that you wanted it in another color, that you made a mistake, it was for a gift, for a child who you thought had a PlayStation. But no, he has an Xbox. Make up anything. That it's a valid reason to return it. And say you didn't open the box. This is lying. But they are lying to you first, selling you a fake controller. Find a way to return it and get your money back. Then if you want, make the complaint, proceed in the way you want, but the first thing you have to do is try to return it or take it back to the store and get your money back, because that's the most important thing. Your money and investment are your responsibility. Proceed as you see fit once you have the money back. This is a method to purchase headsets when unsure about preference or quality. I carefully open them, making sure to keep the product pristine. If dissatisfied, I can return them more easily. I test them. If I don't like them, I return them. There are many stores that have a return policy that even if you have opened and tried it, they will still return it. But just in case, I take the trouble to keep it immaculate, so they can't say anything to me, and they have to return it to me no matter what. Well, there was my trick, there was my advice. I hope this video has helped you. If it helped you, help me by sharing this video, because it makes many more people realize how to avoid being scammed. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do the gaming community a favor and share this video. Of course, I invite you to subscribe, activate the bell, you won't regret it. This is Big Data News. I am Poro. We don't make these videos every day, but I enjoy doing it.